Two teams played the same match twice. Then they played a shootout, and tied that too. By the time it was over, both sides had done everything a cricket team can do to win a World Cup final, and neither of them had actually won it. So the trophy went to a number nobody in the stadium was watching, buried in a rulebook clause written for a scenario the tournament's own organizers barely believed would ever happen. This is the story of the final that ended in a tie, then a second tie, and was finally decided by a rule buried so deep in the tournament regulations that most players didn't know it existed until it cost one of them everything. One match. One hidden reason nobody saw coming. One brutal consequence for New Zealand. Lords. July 14, 2019. Two teams. One trophy. 44 years of English waiting for a World Cup that had never come home. New Zealand had reached a final before. They had lost it before. This time, they wanted the ending to be different. Neither side knew they were about to play a match that cricket had never needed rules for. Because nobody had ever built a rule for what was about to happen. New Zealand batted first. Henry Nicholls made 55. Tom Latham made 47. Steady, careful innings, built for control, not spectacle. New Zealand finished on 241 for 8 in 50 overs. Not a huge total. Not a small one either. A total that said, this match will be close. Nobody in that stadium believed how close it would actually get. England started the chase like favorites. Then, they collapsed like anything but. 86 for 4. The home crowd went quiet. The team supposed to finally win a World Cup on its own soil was staring at an ordinary, forgettable defeat. This is usually where a final ends. A big total falls just short. That is not what happened. Ben Stokes and Jos Buttler decided the match was not finished. They built a partnership of 110 runs. Not fast. Not flashy. Just relentless, chipping away at a target that looked out of reach an hour earlier. Buttler fell for 59. Stokes stayed, carrying a nation's 44 years on his back. Late in the innings, Stokes skied a shot toward the boundary. Trent Boult ran back, settled underneath it, and caught it clean. Then his heel touched the rope. The catch didn't count. The six did. New Zealand had a wicket in their hands for less than a second, and lost it to a boot brushing white paint. England needed 15 from the final over. Then 9 from 3 balls. Trent Boult was bowling. Adil Rashid and Stokes were batting. This was the moment cricket usually delivers a clean winner. Instead, it delivered a sequence nobody had a rulebook ready for. Stokes drove the ball into the deep and turned for a second run. Martin Guptill's throw came in low and hard, aimed at the stumps. It struck Stokes's outstretched bat mid-dive and deflected to the boundary. The umpires awarded 6 runs. New Zealand didn't lose a wicket, didn't concede a legitimate boundary shot. A throw bounced off a diving bat, and 6 runs appeared that shouldn't have existed in that form. Officials later admitted the call was debatable. It should arguably have been 5, not 6. Nobody reversed it. England needed 2 off the last ball. Rashid was run out attempting the second run. England finished exactly level. New Zealand 241. England 241. For the first time in World Cup final history, the match itself would not decide the trophy. It would go to a super over. 6 balls. 2 batsmen. 1 chance each side. England sent Stokes and Buttler back out. 15 off Boult's over. New Zealand needed 16 to win outright, 15 to tie again. Nasham and Guptill walked out to chase the impossible. Nasham smashed a 6 early. New Zealand were alive. On the final ball, Guptill turned for the run that would have won the World Cup outright. Buttler collected the throw and broke the stumps before Guptill's bat reached the crease. Tied. 15 runs each. Cricket had run out of ways to separate these two teams through bat and ball alone. This is where the hidden reason actually decided the World Cup. Buried in the tournament regulations was a clause almost nobody outside the ICC had noticed. If the super over is also tied, the trophy goes to whichever team scored more boundaries across the entire match. Not more runs. Not fewer wickets. Boundaries. The ICC hadn't written this rule to be dramatic. They wrote it to guarantee a winner, for a scenario they hoped never happened, the sporting equivalent of an emergency exit nobody plans to use. On July 14, 2019, it became the only door left standing, and the team that walked through it did so almost by accident. England had hit 26 boundaries across their innings, and the super over combined. New Zealand had hit 17. One quiet number, sitting in the small print, decided which name went on the trophy, not who scored more, not who lost fewer wickets, but who found the rope 9 more times. New Zealand tied the run chase. They tied the super over. By almost every traditional measure, this was a final with no loser at all. But the rule that produced a winner wasn't about who batted better under pressure. It counted boundaries from a 6-ball shootout with nothing to do with the 50 overs before it. Kane Williamson accepted the result without a single public complaint. The cricket world was not as calm as its captain. Former players called the rule unfair within minutes. The criticism built for months, resurfacing every time someone replayed the closing overs. A match this even deserved an ending that felt even too. 3 months later, the ICC scrapped the boundary countback rule entirely. Future super over ties would simply trigger another super over, repeated until someone actually finished ahead. New Zealand didn't just lose the final. They became the reason the rule that beat them was never allowed to beat anyone else again. Change one moment, and the story changes with it. If Bolt's heel lands an inch inside the rope, that's a wicket, not a 6. If the umpires call 5 runs instead of 6, England need 3 off the last ball, not 2. Change either moment, and there's no tie, no super over, no boundary count. New Zealand are simply champions, and this video doesn't exist. This final wasn't decided by one bad ball or one bold decision made overs in advance. It was decided by a clause nobody had explained to the millions watching, a number quietly accumulating since the first over. New Zealand played a final good enough to win twice, tied it twice, and still lost because a rule measured the wrong thing at exactly the wrong moment. One match. One hidden reason buried in the small print. One brutal consequence that changed cricket's rules forever. So here is the fight. Was this the coldest fair ending cricket has ever produced? Or did New Zealand lose a World Cup without actually being beaten? Because one side will say rules are rules. England knew the format, hit more boundaries, and survived the chaos. But the other side will say a final tied after 50 overs, and tied again after the super over should never be decided by a number most people were not even tracking. Drop your verdict in the comments. Rules are rules, or New Zealand were robbed. And if you want more stories where one hidden rule, one tactical detail, or one ignored number changes everything, subscribe to World Cup Chaos Lab. One match, one hidden reason, one brutal consequence.